From a variety of undisclosed locations in the Western Hemisphere, it's time once again for the long shot, come hell or high water. Tonight's episode, I do not care for walnuts in my brownies. And now, please welcome the host of the long shot, Sean Conroy. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening. Hello. Welcome to The Long Shot. It is a podcast. I am your host. My name is Sean Conroy. With me today on the show is not Joe Wagner, who is on injured reserve. Also with me on the show today is not Jamie Flam, who is on religious observe. With me on the show today, the light at the end of the rainbow, the prize on the merry-go, the gold. Yeah, Amber Kenny is here.
Hello. I guess it's 11 years of doing this, but I'm so used to not being introduced first. Like, thank God you did those phony introductions, because I did the like I wasn't ready.
Do I really never introduce you first?
I don't think so.
That's weird.
Maybe. I'm sure someone could create a spreadsheet. And
I think because
totally
it's more fun to introduce you, so it's like I always save that for dessert. You know what I mean?
It's like
after I eat my vegetables. Jamie and Joe are vegetables.
Well, I'm the unlike the others, so it's just like good pattern.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I was not conscious of that. But from now on, you'll be introduced first.
I might be wrong, but I'm usually not first. I might be second or third.
Right. Well, I apologize. I'm so sorry about that.
No, are you kidding? I love it. It's like I get the last bow.
No, I get it. I get what you're saying. I'm so sorry.
It feels like starring Amber Kenny.
Can we not just really rake me over the coals for this? Is that possible?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
So Jamie and Joe are not here, and that is unfortunate, but we are going to deal because this show happens come hell or high water, no matter what.
And the long shot, we do have a certain number of sick days and religious holidays that we observe. So
it's in the union contract for the long shot. We are planning to raise the
minimum
hourly wage to
we can raise it by 100%.
100%. In one session, we could do that. Yeah, we could.
Would still stay pretty slow.
We absolutely could. So let's just get right into it. I'll start. I had a crazy thing happen today. So first of all, I should put full disclosure. I got my first vaccine shot a couple of weeks ago.
That's amazing.
And what's so funny about it to me is, and this isn't really funny, but it is the joke I've been saying when people are like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "Yeah."
I love a not funny joke.
It turns out being in the hospital for a week because you have congestive heart failure 20 years ago
good for something.
Is a good thing. You know, I mean, it is crazy to think that turns out to have been of some benefit ultimately. Right. You know, that I got lucky when that happened, as it turns out.
And you had no reactions?
No, but I have to go still for the second shot, which I think is the one that you're supposed to have a bigger reaction. But the reason I mention that is because today, and my understanding, it's been a little over 2 weeks since I got that shot. And my understanding is that after 2 weeks, you are 92% immunized to COVID. And I think this is right. I could be wrong. Please, I am not a medical expert. Right. Do not take this.
Right. Look, do your research.
Please do your research. But my understanding is you're 100% immunized from hospitalization and,
yes, I've
like
heard
you
that
can
too.
still get sick, but you're not going to get, I guess hospitalization and death are the two things.
Basically
the two big ones. You're okay.
Yeah, I've heard the same. Again, hearsay, who knows?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I've heard that.
We still think people should be cautious and wear a mask. That's my Anthony Fauci.
Well, you want to protect other people is the thing. You could still shed the virus or
right. So here's the thing: is that my friend who lives near here, who was one of my roommates in college, not the one who lives in Idaho that I lived with back in the fall.
Thank God you have this.
I know
college community,
people to see. But anyway, he was like, oh, because I saw him, a month ago, and we went for a walk just down by the water out here. And this time I was like, and this is, everybody should be aware of this. I am on the verge within the next week and a half. I think I am going to head back to Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Which will be nice. I am eager to return to the city of Angels.
Second shot
I'll get it here.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll get it here. I'll wait a few days. I'm not going to wait because it's the same thing after the second one. They say you're supposed to wait 2 weeks before it becomes completely effective. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? Like I've been here for over 2 months now and I'm ready to come back.
In Idaho for how long?
For a month. Give or take. Yeah.
That's crazy. It feels like Idaho was longer than New York. Time is very strange.
Yes. But I mean, it was also different in Idaho because I was living in the barn.
Like your own
studio. I had my own place, and that is different when you were living in your parents' house. Mm-hmm. But anyway, my friend was like, I was like, I'm going to leave soon, so maybe we can hang out again before I go. Yeah. He's like, let's have lunch here in town. And I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. I have not been to a restaurant I shouldn't say I haven't been, but I have not eaten in a restaurant because I've gotten takeout. I've not eaten in a restaurant in over a year. So today, for the first time in over a year, I went to have breakfast at a restaurant. I got there. It was outdoors, although there was a glass wall all the way around. There was no roof on the place. And I was like, okay, I'm not a fan of the glass wall, but I'm a fan of the no roof. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful out today. It was like 60 something degrees. I went in, I sat down, I ordered a cup of coffee. Was drinking the coffee. There was nobody else there. Like there was just empty tables everywhere. That
also is nice.
And I was like, oh, this is great. And then people started to come in and it started to fill up. And the tables were spaced apart, but there was a lot of people. There were a lot of kids running back and forth. My friend was running a little bit late. And I still had only had this cup of coffee. And he got there and I was like, I can't stay. I can't do this. I cannot do it. I need us to go somewhere else.
It was it was causing too much anxiety.
Yeah, it was too much. And I know that's kind of being a pussy, but like, I couldn't do it. I could not sit there. I was so in my head going, the fuck is everybody doing here? You know what I mean? So then I was like, I had, as I always do, I usually carry $2,000 to $3,000 in 20s in my pocket. And I was like, let me just leave this. No. Let me just leave this woman a tip. So I left a 20 on the table and he's like, what are you doing? Like, you don't give somebody $20 on a cup of coffee. And
in
I was
a pandemic, you absolutely do.
I was like, she's trying to make a living. She thought she had a table, and now we're leaving. So, but anyway, I just felt badly because I don't know. It was confusing. It was confusing to be, I couldn't take it. I could not mentally take it. And I was like, this is going to be a big adjustment to get back into things. And this is vaccinated. This is with one of the vaccines, and I was fully aware of that. And I was like, I feel like this is kind of being a little crazy, but I just can't sit here.
Right. I feel like that's valid. This is not a new idea that I'm presenting, but everything's backwards. Like, wait till everyone's vaccinated, then open everything. It feels, it might still be hard to adjust, just like culture shock wise, but at least mentally you'll know
it's safe.
Right.
Because like you said, even if I'm safe, there might be people around me who are not safe from me if I am shedding virus or spewing virus or blorping virus or whatever you do with virus on people. Yeah, right. Spewing. He's spewing virus, Bob.
So what did you guys do? Did you?
I had parked not far. I parked like half a block away, and there was like a park right next to where I parked. So I said, "Why don't we go over there?" And we walked in. I was like, "Oh, let's go sit in the shade." And we walked over, and it was clearly the smokers bench in the park because there were just cigarette butts everywhere around us. But so we went and we just sat on the bench for a couple hours. Well, I should say we got coffee before that. We went to another place and got coffee. And my friend is the kind of guy who's like, he needs to know everybody's name and like say hi to everybody and whatever. And so he's like talking to the guy behind the counter as we're getting coffee. And he's like, now tell me again, what's your name? I know we've been through this before, but I don't. And the guy's like, my name is Dave. And he's like, yes, Dave. I mean, my youngest brother is Dave. So I should have remembered that. I don't know why.
Dave doesn't care. Dave wants to have the next
but then he was like, can I get one of those egg things? And Dave's like, do you want me to heat that up? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. That would be great. So we're still, and I was like, why don't we go wait outside while Dave heats this up? And then Dave brought it out to us. But anyway, so we sat in the park for a couple of hours.
I'm glad you got food because I just pictured two starving.
Well, I only got, he was like, do you want something? I said, I'll have one of it was actually good because what I realized today, this is a big revelation for me.
Oh, wow.
I thought I did, but I do not like walnuts in my brownies.
That is a big revelation.
I mean, you would think it's a harmless thing, right? You're like, oh, walnuts, nuts in the brownies, they're good.
Are you positive this was just a bad walnut brownie? And
could have been.
It might not be a blanket statement for all walnut brownies.
I guess you're right. I'll have to try it again because this was the first time I ever consciously remember going,
I'll take the walnut.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, let's see. I could have the regular one. No, let's live it up a little. Let's get the walnut.
Right.
And
I got some omega acids or whatever.
I think this would have been better without the walnuts. I really think this would have been better without the walnuts.
Wow.
Next time I will get this without the walnuts because I'm a person who doesn't like walnuts in their brownies. I like, how you identify yourself at certain points. You're like, this is who I am. I'm a guy.
And I don't need to fight it.
I'm a guy who likes brownies, but does not like walnuts. Like you think it's such a, like, who cares? As long as you're not allergic to nuts, who cares if it's nuts? It's not nuts. It doesn't matter. It matters. And I am a guy who doesn't care for walnuts in a brownie. Not that I hated it, but I was like, this would have been better without the nuts.
It's not your preference. Did it change the way you saw yourself?
A little bit. Like before today, I would have been like, sure, I'll have walnuts in my brownie. I like walnuts. I like brownies.
You look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I know you a little bit better, pal.
That's exactly it. Like, when you look at a map and there's only like 2 lines on it, and then you like, Lewis and Clark, like they discover a little bit more and they fill that in and they're like, oh, now we know more about this part of the territory. And that's how I feel looking at myself in the mirror after today is like, there's still a tremendous amount to be discovered.
Mm-hmm. But you're getting there.
I do know more than I knew when I got out of bed this morning. Yes. This morning I was like, I am an undiscovered country. And this afternoon I'm like, I know a thing. That's how you move forward in life is like, what do I know about myself? I know a few things. And one of those is I do not care for walnuts in my brownies.
I don't know if this is like ruining the magic.
Like if there had been an episode, if I was on an episode of what's the show where they go, it's not The Bachelor. What's the show, The Dating Game, where they go, do you like, if I was on the other side of the screen and they were like, okay,
Bachelor
I have a question.
#2.
Yeah, Bachelor #2. Do you like your brownies with nuts? Do you like your nuts or do you not like your nuts? Like it would be something like that, right? Like
it would be kind
suggestive.
of suggestive.
Yeah. And I would be like, I don't know. I really don't know.
But today,
I don't like my nuts. I do not care for my nuts. And then the date would be like, oh, okay. I'm going to go back to Bachelor #1.
You think that's going to be like
he doesn't like his own nuts? Am I going to like him? Like that's.
I'm laughing because I don't know if this is like revealing too much behind the magic, but we were talking before the podcast that you had something you wanted to bring up, and I'm dying. Like, was it the brownie revelation?
No, I wasn't even thinking about that.
No, if you're like, Amber, I have something that I really need to bring up.
No, this is what it was. I haven't even gotten to the good part yet.
Oh, okay.
Sitting on the bench, I realized that my shoelace had become untied.
And I'm the kind of person.
My revelation was you can just be sitting there and your shoelace becomes untied. No. The big thing I wanted to bring up was
into Jamie.
No, the big thing I wanted to bring up, which I thought was a big deal, maybe it's not, was that I couldn't handle being in a fucking restaurant. It scared me.
I completely relate.
Is the nuts thing the thing you wanted to bring up?
I didn't actually think that, but it made me laugh to think that it was.
Don't stop me. I got the nuts. I still got the nuts. We got to get to the nuts.
Walking by restaurants in my neighborhood kind of gives me the EBGBs, the EBGBs. I know I say it wrong.
The willy-nillys, the helter-skelters.
But so I can't even imagine like being
the jingle jangles.
There. Right.
Oh, I got the jingle jangles.
Sounds kind of festive.
Mr. Bo Jingle Jangles.
Well, last week, I think on Saturday was the first day that they opened restaurants in Los Angeles and like movie theaters. I think the whole shebang. And we usually do takeout on Saturday nights and then watch a movie on our couch, as opposed to the rest of the nights where we make dinner here and watch a movie on our couch. But it makes it special. And Jeff remembered, but he was like, it's going to be a little dicey even just picking up to-go food. And it was like, you could tell the restaurant wasn't used to
having people there.
Right. And they were a little, and maybe this is 100% projection, but I don't think it is, like kind of amped, like giddy. And it was a Mexican restaurant. And so the hostess was like, they were
Gidetto.
Correct. That's accurate. So we were on the sidewalk, and that's where people are waiting to either get a table or take out. And the hostess, if somebody was waiting for a table, would be like, do you want to order a drink now? And they were bringing people out tequila shots on the sidewalk. And I was
feel like the rules have changed. Yeah.
It's like, but it made me, exactly to your point, I was like, I want to get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Because not like anyone
are averse to, you're a person who doesn't like tequila. Like on your map, there's a little area that is like no tequila.
No, just that, I like fun typically, but the idea that a bunch of intoxicated people who already sort of
makes it so much worse. Yeah.
Well, it feels like they already feel a little too safe for the situation.
And now, alcohol's not going to help that.
Yeah. So I was like, we got a little spoiled, we realized, because takeout was kind of easy and extremely safe feeling because that's all they were doing. But now it's interesting. It's not the worst problem in the world right now, but it's It's interesting.
No. I mean, there are worse.
Like the walnuts, for instance.
Yeah, like who likes that? Like there could come a time when it comes down to liking walnuts and not liking walnuts in your brownies, and that's the thing that separates.
Those are the two political parties.
Yeah. We're joking, of course, but crazier things have happened. But here's the other thing that happened is, so I'm with my friend, and obviously this is a guy I lived with for a couple years in college. I knew, I've known him for, I don't know, 30 some odd years at this point. And we just got to talking about movies. I don't even remember how it came up, but we were talking about, I guess first thing we were talking about was, I don't know. We started talking about, what were we talking about? Just kidding.
No, I can't help.
It was, no, it wasn't that. It was,
oh no.
Shoot.
We got to get you having some conversations.
No, we just started talking about movies, and he was, like I said, he was a guy I lived with for 2 years in college, and we had 4 movies on VHS tape when I was in college.
What were the 4 movies?
They were Jaws.
Good one.
Which is one that we were talking about. Ghostbusters. I'm trying to remember what the other 2 were. There were so many of them. Spinal Tap.
Great one. Holds up. I recommend watching it again.
To Live and Die in LA. Okay. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's a fucking amazing movie. It is truly I think there are articles about how that movie is a classic and nobody realized it at the time. We realized it. Now people are like, oh yeah, that was a classic. But at the time, we were the only ones who knew. But anyway, so each of those movies we probably watched 100 times over the 2 years. And, we had, the 2 of us lived with 2 other guys, and the whole floor was all 2-man rooms. And I say man because it was an all boys floor.
It was male.
Yeah. And we moved all our beds into one room and had the other room as a social room. So a lot of times we would be watching, Jaws for the 89th time, and everybody from the hallway would drift into so there'd be 40 people in this one little room watching.
That's cute and fun.
I mean, or disgusting, depending on what was going on.
If it's a pandemic, yes.
Yeah. But anyway, we're talking about movies, and I started, and I was talking about going back to LA, and I was like, I'm excited. And this is true. I don't know if I've talked about this to you either on air or off, but I am excited to go back to LA because one of the things I am planning to do, and I've been planning for a while, is I'm going to make a full-on short film to submit to festivals and stuff. Like I have a plan. I have a big plan to make a short, and short is a variable term. Like it means less than a full-length movie. So a short could be 45 minutes,
right?
Yeah, or it could be a blip, like a Vine short. If anybody remembers Vine, that was like 2 years ago. And anyway, I said, yeah, I have this plan. I want to make this movie. And he said, he was like, do you, he was like, first of all, I want to check in and see if Dave is doing okay. Hold on, I'll be right back. Let me go check on Dave. I don't know. But he was like, do you mind telling me what it's about? You don't have to, but whatever. And I said, actually, I would like to tell you about it because I have to get to the point where I can pitch the movie. So let me just pitch it to you and you can tell me what you think.
And this was today.
This was today.
Wow. This is a big day so far.
Yeah. And it's only 7 a.m. at this point. So, no, this was late. Like breakfast was at 11:30, so by now it's like 12:30 p.m. Anyway.
I like that we can plot it minute by minute. How long were you in the first restaurant? It's like,
by the way, sir, my name is Dave. I said Dave, right? But anyway, I pitch him the whole thing. Whatever, it doesn't matter. At some point, I will be pitching it to people and trying to get money from people, So his job is in sales. So he's like, if you want my 5 cents, my nickel, how much is 5 cents? My dime. Anyway, he's like, if you want,
you okay?
I'm trying to make up for the fact that other people aren't here.
We're fine. We talk a lot. Oh yeah, I should be interrupting you more. Is that what you're like doing it for yourself?
Go ahead.
Amazing.
So he said, here's some thoughts I have not about the plot or the movie,
but the pitch itself.
Yeah, he was like, you want to have, and this is all stuff you kind of know, but it's always good to hear from other people. He's like, you want to have your 30-second version, your 3-minute version, your 10-minute version, your 20-minute version. And I was like, yeah, I 100%, I whatever. And, and then he was telling me about like getting money from people. And, we went to college with the same people. And he's like, there are people that and I told him how much money I was hoping to do this for. And it's not an insignificant amount of money. It's not like I'm like, I can do this for $40. It's like, right. I want to do this right with a real shoot and real actors and SAG and
a crew,
everything. And locations, the whole, it's a 74-day shoot. That's what I have planned for.
Oh, wow. You really have it planned.
No, 2 days.
It's a long short.
Shoot the whole thing in 2 days because every day is a lot of money,
Right.
So I think I can shoot the whole thing in 2 days. But anyway, I was like, this is the amount of money. And he was like, there are people that we went to school with to whom that amount of money is
reasonable.
Well, it was the phrase he used is like, that's like walking around money to them, Same. And so those are people that you should think about talking to. And he was kind of saying like, just the reasons why it's okay to do that it's okay to ask other people for help when you're doing something like this, because first of all, people want to help. They maybe respect you or respect what you're doing and believe in what you're doing and believe in your talent. Also, there's the element of like, there are people to whom, and this of course has always been true about filmmaking, there are people to whom just saying, I helped produce a movie that got made in Hollywood is just fun to be able to say to people.
It's like a cocktail party conversation.
And I went to the screening and I schmoozed.
My name is in the credits.
Yeah. So all of those things. So he's telling me all this stuff and whatever. And it was
that there's value for them. You're not just taking.
Correct. And that is a good thing to hear because that is very much something that I have difficulty with. Anyway, so we talked about all that. We talked about, then we moved on to other subjects. Let me see, what did we talk about? Hold on. I think I took notes on my phone. No. Go ahead. But anyway.
Should I leave you guys?
So I get home from this whole thing. And I see that I have a message on my phone and it's from him. And I listen to the message and he's like,
slower.
I listen. So I hit.
Then what happened?
I hit voicemail and it says transcribing voicemail.
Oh, they always mess up a couple words, don't they?
No, I listened. Yeah. Right. He says, apparently according to the transcript, he says, hey, I just wanted to unintelligible. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? No, he goes,
well, you succeeded.
He goes, I just wanted to say, I was on my way home and I realized I never said what I should have said, which is that when I would like to invest in this thing because I want to prove, I want to make sure that I believe in this and I believe in you. And I want to, and right. But like what I realized in my head, and this may or may not be true, and we'll never know, is I was like, does he think that the reason I initiated this conversation
was to ask for money,
was to ask him for money? And I need to, so I called him right back and I was like, hey, I appreciate everything you said, but I just want to make sure. It would horrify me to think that you thought, and it didn't matter what I was saying, because he was like, no, it's fine. I just want to make sure, like we're just talking over each other. And he's like, no, I just want to make sure that I want to be a part of this. And I am 100% on.
But what if that's true?
I'm sure it is
I think
true.
Both point of views are probably true. You didn't come to it but asking for money, and he wants to give you money, and
both of those things are true.
Yeah.
Yes. But the difficulty is my feeling that he would walk away from that conversation thinking that the reason for that conversation was to ask him for money, to which I guarantee you he would say, no, it's I didn't think that. He would say, it doesn't matter, because you need to get comfortable with that.
Right. He'd want you to be doing that.
And I just, it made me feel like I wanted to take a shower when I got home, like I was like, no, that's not who I am. Like, it was just such a weird, like, misinterpretation, which I don't even know if it was a misinterpretation. Like, it felt very Curb Your Enthusiasm. It felt like,
right.
We were just like talking a little bit past each other at that point. And like I said, it's past that at this point, and now we'll never know. You know what I mean? Like, it's done. And he may go to his grave believing that I brought that up to get money from him, or he may not. And I may go to my grave. I'm not going anywhere right now because I got vaccinated and I left the restaurant before anything happened. But anyway, it just was such a weird thing.
I actually, I don't know why I said actually. I very much relate to what you're saying, because I've thought back on, there's been so many times where I've sort of like actively sabotaged, or not even, maybe sabotage is too harsh of a word, but like there were so many times in my life where people would have easily helped me, but I was so determined to ensure that they thought that I wasn't asking for help.
Right.
And it's like, where is this coming from? It's very bizarre. It's very not Hollywood.
Oh, it's 100% the opposite of Hollywood. Well, I was telling him about this. Do you remember I said this to Jamie at one point? I had read this book and I don't remember the name of the book, but it's about a guy who's like an indie filmmaker, or it's written by a guy who's an indie filmmaker. And he talks about how to raise money when you want to make your film. And the first thing he says, this was the thing I said to Jamie when he was raising money for Dynasty Typewriter, was get a Yellow Pages and start calling dentists, because dentists make money and have lives that they're sort of like, I'm a dentist. Like, I'm not, they're not glory hounds. Yeah. They're not like, their lives are not like, hey, it's this amazing thing. I get to fix people's teeth. And so there's dentists with money who would be like, yeah, I want to be a fucking Hollywood producer. Fuck yeah.
Just the idea of that, though, like, already gives me anxiety, and it was hypothetical.
Of cold calling people. Yeah. But another thing they talk about in that book that this guy said, and, it's funny. I said to my friend, I was like, I'm sure you have heard of this type of sales tactic. Was the guy said, you get 10, the book was written like 30 years ago. So it was like, get 10 guys in a room and you pitch them your idea. You say, this is what the movie is. Then you show them on the screen a clip reel from your cinematographer, other stuff they've done that looks cool or whatever.
It's real.
And you go, so if you want to be a producer, it's $5,000 a share. I'm going to put each of you down for 10 shares.
Oh my God.
And then you just let that hang there because you're forcing them
to say no instead
to go,
of
wait, I don't want to do that. They're the ones who have to make the awkward no thing instead of you being like, look, I know this is a big ask and whatever.
Kicking the ground and saying, shucks, could you possibly?
You force them to go either.
They're like automatically opted in, basically.
Right. And yeah, I forget what my friend even had a term for it. It was like the choice of no choice or something like that, where like
sounds so bleak.
But like, the person has to go, okay, I'm in, or they have to go, I can't do 10 shares, but what if I did 5 and now you have $25,000 more than you had walking into that meeting,
right?
Or they go, I am so sorry about this, but I can't do that. I'm not in. I mean, they're already in the meeting that they know is about your film that you're trying to make, and trying to raise money.
Well, and
so
then
they're already leaning a little bit anyway.
And there's probably the peer pressure of it all. If the other 5 guys say yes, you don't want to be it's like a masculinity thing.
It's 100%, it's definitely that of like, what am I going to do? Look like an asshole in front of all these other people?
Sales tactics.
So anyway, the point is, Amber.
Oh God. I'm just getting on my feet. like
I
yesterday.
know you have a job.
I do. I'm very lucky.
And I know you want to be
a big
not
time
a taker. You don't want to be a taker. You want to be a producer. Sorry, I'm just honing my pitch.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but we have some pretty amazing fans. I feel like even just after this episode, people will reach out with support and without even knowing the idea.
I mean, feel free, absolutely,
And that's why you brought it up, right?
Well, let me just
just to go back to the shame segment.
This is all. Oh my God, he never stops talking about it. He keeps telling the story about he didn't want to tell the story about it, but by doing that, he's telling the story about it, and he's doing it again.
The slipperiest salesman in the game.
You know that he went back into the store and said to Dave, like, I just had this conversation across the street. Can you believe it, Dave? Do you want to be a Hollywood producer?
But that's really exciting. It's exciting.
I am excited about it. I am really
doing things.
Yeah.
And that sounds condescending, but I don't mean it that way. Like, it's tough right now to do anything.
Number 1, fuck you. Number 2, no. I mean, yeah. And I have this script that I'm working on. Like I wrote this pilot last year during all this, and I really feel good about it, and nothing has happened because of it. And that is the nature of Hollywood. And so it's like, okay, then what's the next thing? What's and so this is an idea that's been brewing in my head for years. And if I could I think you would really like it if I could just explain it to you. Do you mind taking a second? And I'll tell you.
And I'm no Hollywood mover and shaker, but it feels increasingly that you kind of just have to make your own stuff. And then the powers that be that you're already a success, and then they'll give you an opportunity.
I think back to Bill Burr's episode of The Long Shot, and that was his advice to us and to everybody listening was make your own shit. And
that was 9 years ago.
And I'm finally listening. But I mean, that's also a thing, because I've been saying that for 25 years to people who complain about not being not 25 years, 20 something years, to people who don't get cast on Harold teams. I'm like, so what? You don't let those people dictate what you get to do. If this is what you really want to do, because I go back to the early 90s before the Upright Citizens Brigade came to New York, and I was improvising in my first improv group, and we were performing. I mean, I've told this story a million times, but here we go again. Do you want to invest in my movie? But wanted to be improvising more. And so I said, what can I do? I found a theater. I rented a theater. I had a job at that time. I was teaching school. So I could afford to pay $250 a week. I couldn't really, but I had the money to do that. And hope to make that money back by getting 25 people to pay $10 a week to see the show, which sometimes happened and sometimes did not happen. But out of that was how I got into Chicago City Limits, which is where I met Eddie Pepitone, and the rest is history. And here we are. But that is because I took control of the situation and said, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it. Instead of going, I'm not improvising enough. Why am I not improvising enough? Why aren't more people asking me to be a comedic performer? And so that's what I've been saying. But then it's easy to get lazy about that and to lose focus on that,
this is like a whole other can of worms that I can't really speak to intelligently, but it felt like the Herald team goal was like a MacGuffin on some level, because I knew so many people who that's what they were striving for.
It's the keys to the kingdom. And then you're like, what the fuck is the kingdom?
Well, and they would either get it or not get it, but either way feel like, now what?
Yeah.
It's not like you automatically get a sitcom because you were on a Herald team. Like it's like shooting not far enough or something. I don't know.
100%. And that is where
I mean, you need to have achievable goals along the way, but you understand what I'm saying.
100. I keep saying 100%, and it's really not. I understand like 75% of what you say. So I'm 100% lying every time I say 100%, and I'm not really 100% lying because it's partially true. So I'm like 80% telling the truth, 20% lying about how 75% of the time I believe what you're saying, and 100% I totally understand. But I do think that is because then what happened after that was I got into Chicago City Limits and I just fucking dawdled there for years thinking that was a thing. And it was nothing. It was nothing, I mean, not nothing. It was something, but it wasn't much of something. It was almost nothing. It was like 12% of nothing.
It was a cool accomplishment and guidepost, but it wasn't a place to like set up camp permanently.
It was like what you said. It was like, now what? Now what? And I lost track of that for 27 years.
You're doing okay.
No, but I think it is easy to like sit back and go, now I've got it. I mean, it's the same thing with stand-up, like getting Conan. I was like, okay, I'm good. And then, that was it. It was like, no, you're not good. Like there's a lot more work to be done, and you have to keep looking at whatever you want to win, stay focused on, like, keep your eyes on the, whatever you're going to get at the end.
Gosh. Yeah, I would say this show to a large degree disillusioned me of that in this sense. Yes.
The long shot.
Yes. Because as a very young person starting comedy.
Ingenue?
Yes, comedic ingenue. But I had like my friends in my peer friends in comedy, everyone was like, once I get booked on this show, once this happens, and we're talking like even smaller peanuts when you zoom out, it's like, a weekly.
Well, let's not even get into the whole Zoom thing because that has really revolutionized everything over the last.
But I would then do this podcast. And I would hear you talk. We would have guests that are like heroes of mine who
successful,
who've like achieved everything that you could possibly dream of, and they're not happy. So okay, it's not that achievement right there isn't going to do it. I think it's going to be something else.
Yes, but I mean, you're absolutely right. But I also feel like that's two different things too.
Totally.
Discontent with your own life is different from this achievement or that achievement. Yeah. Because that's definitely an issue as well.
But I think
of like being comfortable.
Right. It can be tied though. in the sense that I will be happy once I'm on a Herald team. It's like, you absolutely won't, for sure. Like, I can tell you that with positive.
No,
if you're
Herald
not
teams
happy
are
now,
a nightmare.
no, but if you're not happy now, you're not going to be happy then.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's not funny. Well, we'll see. Maybe it's, I don't know. What is 100%? But I've been teaching so much over the course of the last year, and at the end of every class, I meet with each student individually to talk about the script they've written. And the first thing I say is, how do you feel about this?
Mm-hmm. That's a great coaching question.
And my main point is to separate them from the result, because I'm always like, you should feel really good that you did this. Whatever you have accomplished, you sat down and you wrote a thing and you have presented it to the world. And that's a huge deal. And whenever I have that conversation with people, I feel like I'm basically talking to my younger self and going, the fuck is wrong with you? Feel good about the things you're doing.
This is a win.
Instead of feeling shitty about the things you haven't done. I do think it's good to aspire to stuff, but it's also good to go, I did this thing. I mean, I always tell the story, and I'm sure I've told it on about
this strange, like, Alzheimer's character that you're doing. I don't know how I feel about it.
I don't either, unfortunately, because I
don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not. But this stand-up competition I was in years ago, and it was a thing where we were on a list of comics in New York, and I've talked about this a million times. Like, there's a couple of parts.
Thread.
Yeah, there's a couple parts of the story, because we were on this list with all these comics, and everybody on the list was like, "Oh, Dave is going to win this competition. Dave's got it in the bag. Dave is the funniest guy." Same Dave. Now he's working at a coffee shop. Fuck him. No, and a very talented, funny comic who was performing on the same night against me in competition. And everybody on the list, I think a little thoughtlessly, or maybe they were doing it on purpose, but was saying, "Oh, Dave's got this in the bag." And I was like, do you guys know that I am, like,
right?
You can think that, but saying it so blatantly in public is, and maybe I should just have a thicker skin, but I was like, fuck you guys, like, whatever. And then that night I won the night, and which was funny in terms of like going back to that group of people and being like, what's up, motherfuckers? Now what? Where the fuck is Dave? He's working in a coffee shop. But what I really vividly remember about that night is they did it like the Miss America pageant. Like, they were like, the third runner-up is Lambosis Frisco. And everybody was like, yay. And then they were like, the second runner-up is Don Flarpdiddle. Yay, Don Flarpdiddle. And they were like, and the winner is Sean. And that was as far as they got before, in my head, my first thought was, well, this doesn't really mean anything. Like, this is
like, you couldn't even enjoy it for a second.
And I remember sitting that night, we went out to a bar near there. Surprise, surprise. And I remember sitting there and just being like, I need to take a moment to step back and feel good about this, because if I don't, I am fucked for life. Like, I will never feel good about anything ever if I can't take this moment where I showed those motherfuckers and I won this competition. And, so anyway, I just wanted to say that I did in 1999 win a stand-up competition that led to ultimately nothing.
But you feel great about it now.
But I feel good about it. But anyway, yeah. So can I put you down for $1,000?
I'll see the pitch first.
If I could just give you a 2-second elevator pitch, it's about a ghost who's a ghost of a goat who's best friends with a beret, and the beret wears a beret, and they live together in a cookie jar.
A 2-day shoot, huh?
2 days shoot. You know how easy it is to work with barrettes and berets. Those guys are simple. So anyway, all I'm saying is, can I put you down for $1,000?
You should say it's about relationships. That was
that's
the big joke that me and my college friends used to always say. It's like, oh, that play, it's about relationships, which means absolutely nothing, because every single thing in the world is about relationships. It's just like, it makes me laugh because it sounds like you're saying something, but you're saying nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that might be a good might be a good hook for this show. You know, it's about relationships. All right. Well, let's take a break and then we'll come back and we'll do, I don't know if you have anything. Yeah, there's Jeff.
I'm in my Nook right now. I switched it up.
You have a Nook too.
Well, that's how the Nook came up.
Oh, it was? I thought it was Jamie's Nook. It's your Nook?
My desk is in a Nook. And then when Jamie was talking about a Nook, you were like, Amber also has a Nook. Whatever. We're recapping.
Here's the thing. I feel weird because I have a cranny in my apartment. Is that weird?
I think you made that exact joke.
I have patterns.
Okay, let's take a break.
Yeah. Hey everybody, it's Sean, and I'm not gonna go on and on about this, but follow us on Twitter at Longshot Podcast and find out what's going on in everybody's life. And if you don't know about Twitter, you should check it out because there's a lot of really uplifting stuff on there to read about. People have opinions about why you're good and why things are good and, you know, how everything is good. So go check it out and you'll learn something. Now back to our show. We are back. You are listening. And thank you for that.
We don't say that enough.
In any aspect of our lives, but certainly not in this one. Thank you guys for listening. And, you know, you can email us. Our email address is mailbag@thelongshotpodcast.com. I was looking today and we do have a bunch of emails. I don't want to do it
without the whole gang.
Joe and Jamie not here, but we will over the course of the next several weeks be responding to those on the show.
On air?
So is it air really? I mean, what is it? I mean, air to me is the radio.
Right.
On web?
Sounds worse.
On
More
net?
confused.
On net?
On recording?
On iTunes or Anchor.fm or Spotify?
Man, if our fans don't find the one place to listen to podcasts that I don't list every single time.
Why is it not on here? Yeah.
It probably is. I don't know.
Right. Well, I think what's interesting about that is I feel like people who listen to podcasts know a lot about podcasts, and I listen to some, but I am not a podcast aficionado. Or is that how you say it?
It sounds like dinner.
Tonight we have a freshly shaved aficionado in a raspberry remoulade. No, I know what you're saying. Like, people are like, what the fuck, man? Why is it not on this thing? You're like, I'm not sure.
Maybe
Please don't ask me. Yeah.
I don't know.
But we do appreciate people listening and finding it in all the places. All right. So we always start the show. Should we start the show?
I hope not. Poor
in the segment
Aaron.
in the segment that we like to call checking in. Mm-hmm. So let's check in today with Amber. I'm going to Amber first this time. Amber first.
Ooh. See, you go to me first sometimes for checking in, just not for the welcome.
I gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't even know how to talk about this and not sound like an insane person. So I'm just going to risk possibly sounding like an insane person.
Is this about how you are Napoleon Bonaparte? Because that is going to make you sound like an insane. Like that's the classic symptom of insanity. Right. I feel like anytime you see an insane asylum in the movies, there's somebody wearing a hat who thinks he's Napoleon Bonaparte. So let's see what happens.
That's because of the Napoleonic complex, and some screenwriter thought that it was like literal.
But a Napoleon complex doesn't mean you're insane. It just means you're short.
What I'm saying is, like, do you think that at one point a screenwriter was like, I need a collection of crazy people, heard that idea, translated it too literally, and then that translation kept getting translated into other forms of media? Because it's not something I've ever heard of in real life. It's just in movies.
Maybe.
It's the same
with Psycho Killer. Like, you know, people are a psycho killer in the movies, and it's like, oh, they're psycho, they kill people, when that's not really what, you know. Oh no, that is sorry.
They're psycho, they kill people. Okay. So I'm a little bit. I had I'm really
just get to it. Just get to it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm aware that I keep having like very special episodes, and I don't want to, but that is
when you have a very special episode, we all have a very special episode.
Oh, thanks, Sean. All right. Or I'm sorry. I don't know. But I have to be honest about what I experienced this week. And I know the biggest thing that affected me was at Echo Park Lake, there was an encampment of unhoused people in tents. As you can imagine, homelessness is rampant in Los Angeles. Housing is impossible. And the pandemic only made things worse. But this community of unhoused people.
Pandemic made things worse because people weren't working and therefore couldn't pay their rent and therefore got evicted. Is that correct?
I believe so. Again, I'm no scholar. Just like everything we've talked about,
we're making it up as we go along.
I am not an expert on the.
Check your facts, folks. Google is your friend.
I am talking about it from how it's affected me, which sounds really egocentric, but that's how I'm coming at it. Anyway, they've created a community this past year during the pandemic where they've created a kitchen and a garden, and they watch over each other's stuff, and it's a full community, and it's big. And Mitch O'Farrell, I'm going to name names. My council member, is that how you say it? Council member? Council?
I believe it's pronounced Conquil Mamba.
Sure. From what I gather, with pressures from homeowners, and I think also it has something to do with the upcoming Lotus Festival. There's always a Lotus Festival in the summer at Echo Park Lake. Planned a sweep of the encampment, but was very secretive about when and where. Like, he was directly asked on camera multiple times, and he would not confirm.
Yes, we will be doing a sweep on. Excuse me? I said on the faithful. Okay, sure.
And homeless activists, people in the community started protesting. Anyway, it went possibly the worst way it possibly could. There were multiple police helicopters circling overhead in my neighborhood for 2.5 days.
How far are you from Echo Park?
Less than a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And
but you don't live in Echo Park.
I'm right at the border of Silver Lake Echo Park. It's actually a funny thing when people ask us where we live. I always say Silver Lake, and Jeff always says Echo Park. I don't know what that means about our personalities. Also, now people can definitely find me. I've given so many clues.
She's right around here somewhere.
But just
so there are helicopters flying around your neighborhood.
Right. So after dark.
And just so people know what it's like to have, in case you've never had the joy of a helicopter flying around your neighborhood, it just is annoying. Like it's a constant noise.
It's
and
psychological
lights,
torture.
and it gets further away and comes closer. So it gets softer and louder and softer and louder. And you think it's gone, and then it comes back.
And it's never gone.
Yeah.
And it's just anxiety inducing. Really. Because it doesn't happen for a good reason ever. There's never like the Dodgers won, the helicopters are circling. Like it's not celebratory.
The helicopter is here to bring Ed McMahon down with the Publishers Clearinghouse check. Ed McMahon's been dead for like 20 years. I'm still making that joke.
Please no. But after dark, which I feel like adds to the disingenuous.
The best part of the Playboy channel, by the way.
I wouldn't know.
Now it's time for Playboy After Dark.
Mitch O'Farrell's talking points are that his plan is to take care of the homeless people and get them housing. And these activists are standing in his way of making sure they have housing. I call bullshit because they waited till the sunset. They had 400 police officers, helicopters. Like, you aren't trying to take care of people and make sure they're in housing without warning, after dark, by force. Like that doesn't feel like your first concern is the homeless people. It feels like absolute bullshit. Anyway, that first night, they ended up building a fence around Echo Park Lake, and some of the unhoused people hadn't left. So they made a concentration camp, for lack of a better word, because the people who did live in the park, who were still there, could not now leave. And the people they knew and the people who lived there who had left couldn't get back in. They were stuck there. And I kind of lost my mind. I became really unhinged because every day the news has injustice and horrific things happening to people all day long, every day. And it's hard on everyone's heart. But this felt like in my backyard. And
you can turn the news off, right?
I know. This one I became...
the shoe is on the other foot.
I know. I felt very like, okay, I get it. Because I was like obsessed with the updates and seeing the videos of what the policemen were doing. And
you sound crazy.
The second night, they arrested a bunch of reporters and all of the legal witnesses who were there for a vigil. Like, that is fascism. That they're trying to deter protesters and the press from being there at all. And the park is cleared now. There's a fence around it. Also, none of this was with warning. I think they gave the residents, the unhoused residents, a little less than 24 hours. But there are people who use that park on a daily basis. There are vendors who their income is selling things in that park. They had no warning. So it just feels, it's so upsetting. And the overtime of these 400 police officers and the helicopters, the expense of those alone could have helped so many unhoused people. It's so frustratingly a lie. They're lying. And my theory is, and I'm hoping, this is the Pollyanna side of me.
You're hoping 3 times hoping.
Yes, I'm hoping that things are changing. But what I'm thinking is Mitch O'Farrell is very used to, he's had a long career.
Conquil, mon bras.
Right. I used to go to luncheons that he was at all the time when I worked at the bank because we would be part of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. Anyway. Not like he knew me or anything, but it's just strange.
Hello, Amber, it's me, Mitch O'Farrell. That's his voice in my head. We're going to do something at dawn tomorrow.
Oh, the worst. Not dawn.
In the dark. Wait till the dark comes and you won't believe what you see when you waken in the morning.
Oh, and these people, the housing that they're given is a hotel room that once they have it, they have to abide by very strict rules. Like they have a curfew at 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. or something like that, which some people would argue, what's the problem with that? But I've read articles, not to sound like other people, but there are unhoused people who do have jobs and their jobs aren't within those out. Like to do their job, they get home at 9 p.m.
So what kind of job gets you home at 9 p.m.? You got to go earlier and then you get home on the right time.
Yep, everyone has just a 9 to 5, the whole world.
There's a job in word processing. They're looking for people at the post office.
I'm not even being eloquent. I haven't been eloquent about it all week. I've just been like angry and sad. On Thursday, especially, I could barely work. I could barely focus because I was thinking about the fact that there was a fence built around a bunch of unhoused people less than a mile away from me, a concentration camp. And there was, at the same time, the helicopters were still going. And it's just like, that's my representative who did that. It's disgusting. And, I didn't even get to my theory. My theory is Mitch O'Farrell and other people in local politics for years have been able to kind of go under the radar. The only people really paying attention to them and the only people writing them letters and asking to meet with them, and definitely the only people giving them money on any level, are rich people, are homeowners, are people who are NIMBYs, not in my backyard. And so they have deep patterns of just, even though their constituents are a broader, more diverse population, they're used to just catering their policies to this very specific small demographic. And I think
that's American politics writ small, right? Like that's corporations at a countrywide level versus rich people on a local level.
Right. But I think he's used to pulling shit like this, and maybe a couple of the local activists throw their hands up and write some letters, and then it just kind of gets swept under the rug and life goes on, and the rich homeowners who complained about people in the park are happy and he's a success. I think he's genuinely shocked that there is a public outcry.
Where the hell did all these people come from? What are they talking about? I'm supposed to be able to do things in the middle of the night and nobody's supposed to say a thing.
I'm unhinged. I've never been the kind of person that replies to a politician's tweet. But now every time he posts something, I'm just like, can't wait to get you out of office.
Oh, there goes that Amber Kenny again. Amber_Kenny on Twitter. I got to find out who that is.
Oh no.
I may have to come around her place and check out her blinds. If she has those up and down blinds, those vertical blinds.
The worst. We didn't talk about that on air.
I know.
I did shoot out an email to him Wednesday night, that first night. That was a little unhinged. But my favorite part about it.
Welcome to the club, my friend.
Oh, are you dead? Oh, that is so weird. My favorite part about it is he has an automatic.
Wait, did Jeff just die?
No, the light went out, and so I thought the bulb died, but then I just turned it off and turned it back on, and it turned back on.
I thought you were talking to Jeff. You reached out of frame and went, "Why did you go out? Are you dead? Oh, that's so weird." And then kept talking, and I was like, "Oh my God, yeah."
Cold as ice. What in the God's name was I talking about? Oh, I wrote him an email, and so he has like an automatic response because he gets so many emails. And it just made me laugh.
Just so you know, this is an automatic response. Right. Get your input.
Well,
as soon as possible, or ASAP, as they say.
It legitimately made me laugh because the tone of his response didn't match my email.
Amber, so great to hear from you.
Right.
I love what you got to say, and I agree with you 100%. And when I say 100%, I mean 0%.
But yeah, it's super duper heartbreaking, and I'm no expert on how to solve homelessness. I can't even pretend to be. But
yeah, it's a messy situation, because you are dealing with, not in every case, but in many cases, you're dealing with people with some degree of mental illness or some degree of addiction, or both of those things that are overwhelming them in a way that is impossible for them to deal with. I also look at it, you keep saying rich homeowners, which I'm sure is a real thing, but there are probably also people who live in that area who are like imagine you're buying your first place, and you buy a place in Echo Park, and you're like, I love this neighborhood. I love being able to go to the park. There's boats there that you can go on and pedal. Yeah. And then you have two kids, and you're like, yeah, we can't go over there anymore. I sympathize with those people too. They're not, they're not in the same dire situation that people who are being kicked out of this place are, and then you're talking about concentration camp. And I will say, I have a difficult time focusing on things. So I feel like if I had been able to go to concentration camp, maybe I'd be doing a little better right now, but that's a whole other.
Louise. Yeah, and because I've been completely unhinged and bugging out about this, I have found articles that back up my beliefs. That's what we do, right? That's human nature. But there's a lot of literature out there that says doing the humane thing and providing actual resources and actual housing in the long run is a lot cheaper. And so it's like, it feels like a no-brainer. And I know I'm a Pollyanna dum-dum, but it's like, if it's cheaper and it solves the problem that everyone doesn't like, what are we doing? But people don't like handouts. They don't like the idea of handouts.
There's I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think there's a book that somebody wrote about a town or city in the Midwest. And I want to say Minneapolis. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like maybe it was Minneapolis, and maybe it wasn't Minneapolis. Was it?
Really fine. Let's just decide it was.
Let's pretend it was Minneapolis. They, over the course of like a year, they solved their homeless crisis, because what happened was somebody came in, I don't know if it was a mayor or a city manager, or somebody came in and made it the responsibility of every department head in the city to be aware of who the people were and to take responsibility for people and for helping people and finding them. So the chief of police, the fire department chief, the emergency services person,
I don't see that happening.
They all knew the names of all the people that they were dealing with in the homeless situation. And it wasn't like 5 or 10 people. It was thousands of people. And they created, I mean, this is where it gets a little weird, because then you go, wait, they shouldn't be doing that. But they have lists of people and they're like, where is this guy living right now? And what does he need? And what is his problem? His problem is addiction. His problem is mental illness. His problem is unemployment. What can we do to help this person and provide him with the stuff he needs? And it worked. It worked, you know?
Right.
And it's complicated and it's difficult and it takes a lot of determination. And you have to fight against the people who are like, why are we helping people? They should be helping themselves, you know, which is a whole political party in this country at this point.
And a myth. Like there's
well, sure, but not to the people who believe it, you know?
Right.
I mean, some people say Jesus is a myth, but you know, I think he was real. And I'm not saying Israel just because he was, well, anyway, happy Passover.
Yeah. And I don't have anything great to add. I know Abby, my friend Abby had,
I know Abby.
She went to Germany and she said, you just don't see homeless people. And she talked to locals about it.
Yeah, I think not seeing a particular type of person in Germany is not something to brag about, especially since we've already been talking about concentration camps.
Right. But because there are so many resources that if somebody has to actively trying to be homeless at some point. And that sounds good. I think the problem is I've been thinking about this a lot.
That's the problem?
Yeah, that's the problem. I got to stop thinking about it. Yeah. No, it's just people don't want to see homelessness. So their idea of fixing it is just
move it away.
Getting it out of eyesight, and that isn't actually solving it. It just means you don't have to see it. So when I worked at the bank, I got all of the complaints for the whole district. They came right to me.
Why weren't you at the luncheon? We had a luncheon, you weren't there. What's going on?
No, I mean from customers. Oh. And there was a guy who would call me like once a week to say that there was a homeless person sleeping close to one of our ATMs. And every time I would be like, I'm so sorry about that. Click, kind of. I mean, I did it more politely.
I would like you to go wake him up, please.
Well, that's what I, on a personal level, I was like, it is heartbreaking that homelessness exists. I do not understand why you're mad at me about it. But somehow that complaint got escalated to my boss. And he immediately was like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. And he called the police on this homeless person. And that like blew my mind. And I get it. People want to feel safe around their money or blah, 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 blah. But
well, I mean, don't say that as if that's not a concern.
No, sure. But
I mean, look, people are worried when they get money that somebody's going to take it from them.
But I'm not expressing it correctly. This guy would be mad if he saw the homeless person from his car. Like the homeless person wasn't directly threatening him. He just didn't like that he was there at all.
Hi, Amber. It's Peter again.
Right.
I have to tell you, I'm in my car and there is a homeless person outside my car.
It just blew my mind, and it made me feel foolish that, oh, I guess we are supposed to call the cops. Like that didn't cross my mind.
Well, and you know, here's another part of that is like, I don't know when this was, but it was a few years ago. And I feel like I would hope that we have learned since then to not get the police involved in anything like that.
Right.
There is no reason to,
Right.
unless it's a violent confrontation, to call the police in a situation like that is asking for a problem.
100%. And I think that is part
like
of
80%.
My anger with this whole situation is there were so many police involved. So to be saying you're doing this to help the homeless when there's like jacked up more than twice as many police officers than unhoused people, like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that you're doing this out of the kindness of your heart. But yeah, we need affordable housing on some level that would help. And I think we need to see unhoused people as people. And I'm guilty of this. I'm not saying that I'm over there kumbaya holding hands with them. I didn't go to any of the protests, and I beat myself up about it, kind of like you, Sean, with breakfast, where I was like, I want to be there, but I'm still freaked out about everything. So I'm not there. And
right. Like health-wise, who knows what's going on?
Oh,
yeah, I mean, it's all very complicated.
The CDC guidelines on encampments are to get them to separate housing unless they won't move, and then do not move them. It's actually unsafe and bad for the health of the community to get them all wandering the streets. And you know what I'm like? Anyway, It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. It was the wrong move.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I don't know very much about the whole situation at all. Certainly prior to this, the homeless, the unhoused situation in the city was not good.
Right.
But it feels like it has gotten much worse and I don't know if there's a connection. I don't know what the driving force is, but like I can remember years ago, not years and years ago, but just a couple years ago when I had my Brazilian supermodel roommate, and she was like walking around in my neighborhood, and I was like, it is not safe to walk underneath the 101 because there is a huge encampment there, and then there was a huge fire in that encampment, and
there were a couple
maybe it was
like
arson, or maybe there was two stabbings under that bridge, and it used to make me nervous because she was like, no, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's actually not fine. It's actually
not fine. Yeah.
And now that whole area and several other areas around there are villages, that's not good for anybody, people shouldn't be living there for their own sake, much less for the sake of the people who the rich homeowners or whoever is living in that neighborhood.
It's not good for anyone. I went to South Africa the year I graduated college.
Here we go.
But it was sort of drilled into me that South Africa is sorry, there's things happening behind me.
Is that the light?
Yeah, the light's back. That South Africa is this dangerous place, and it is this dangerous place because of the disparity in wealth, that there's very wealthy people who have houses and maids and gates around their house. And then there are people who live in townships. And townships are basically exactly what's at Echo Park Lake, or was at Echo Park Lake. It's like shacks made of things they could find, filled with very poor people. And when you have poverty, you have crime because people are desperate. And I remember being like, wow, it's so crazy how different it is. And at the risk of sounding dramatic, it feels like LA, at least, I can't speak for the rest of the country because I'm not there. We're getting there if we're not already there. You know, the disparity is striking.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that about the rest of the country, because I can't speak to the rest of the country either, but I can say that when I was on tour in 2017 and even a little before that, you know, because even then, this is the before times, pre-pandemic, it was noticeable to me and to everyone that the homelessness problem in LA was getting worse. And what I was struck by when I was touring the country was every big city I went to, there was a problem. You know, Phoenix and Portland, and, you know, like Portland, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, a bunch of homeless people are going to go live there, because it just doesn't, it's not LA. It's not inviting in terms of climate, but it was a huge problem, you know?
And it feels like that is a symptom of a bigger societal problem. Again, I'm no genius. I'm no scholar, but
yeah, I think you're right about being a scholar. Yeah.
But there, like, something's wrong.
Yeah,
because people aren't just choosing to be homeless.
Right.
They're not just. Not
Some people are, but not everybody. You know.
Right.
And probably not the majority of people.
Right.
There's a lot of. Yeah, I don't. I'm.
Yeah, we don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. The whole episode is we don't know what we're talking about, but.
Well, 95% of the episode is that. 100%. 100%.
But yeah, I'm addicted to reading the replies to every Mitchell.
You know, you don't have to read every reply.
I know. But it is so fun.
Oh, it feels so good to be on the other side of this equation. You know,
I know. You're like, just ignore it. Go meditate.
Go watch something else. You know.
But yeah, so that was my week.
Yeah, and you know, it's just overwhelming, the amount of stuff that is bad.
Well, it's, again, I don't think that I'm expressing it well enough, but when I was following the protests on Twitter, they closed off the whole neighborhood. So there was pictures of protesters and cops confronting each other. Like, so close to me. Like, it felt very personal.
Right. Like it was in your backyard.
Mm-hmm. And again, the helicopters will make you feel insane.
Yeah, the helicopter thing is crazy.
Without being.
That is, to me, so essentially LA, the helicopter thing. You know,
and it's
because where I live, up at the top of the hill there, not so much the last year, but I live right at the end of the Cahuenga corridor, which is where all those dance clubs are. So now everyone's going to find your place too. But every Friday and Saturday night, there were helicopters up there circling for hours and hours and hours. And it does make you crazy at a certain point. You're like, oh my God, here it comes again, you know? So, well, I think we solved it pretty much.
I don't know what we solved, but thanks for letting me talk about it. I apologize in advance if I was so wrong about everything. I'm just saying from my point of view.
Right. Well, that's a bummer. So I guess we'll stop there.
Oh
no. No, but I feel like we should I guess we should get to
parting
shots, right?
Hell yeah.
I feel like I had something before, and now I can't remember.
There was something you wanted
I have a question. I have a question for you. Did you ever end up watching Training Day, the movie?
We did watch it.
Did you like it?
Yeah. I mean, I had seen it before.
Oh, you had.
But probably when it came out, and I was fairly young.
Mm-hmm.
No offense.
I mean,
we all were.
I was pretty young back then too.
But
I'm still pretty young. I mean, I'm not, I'm not like an ancient person.
The Pollyanna Rosie classes. I remember the first time I watched it being like, oh, cops can be bad. So that's funny because like now watching it's like, oh yeah, that's how they act. Like it's very but yes, Jeff was making me laugh watching it because he was like, Ethan Hawke is just a bad cop. Like, I don't think if I were Denzel Washington, I wouldn't let him in my gang either. Like he's bad at this.
Come on, Ethan Hawke. Yeah, now you smoke that shit, man. You smoke that shit. But that one scene is one of my favorite scenes. Fucking crazy. And that guy, the guy who wrote that, has written a bunch of movies like that, and they're all so fucking grim they're all about LA, they're all about cops, and they're all about just bad shit going down.
Totally. I did with the lens of 2021. It was a little like, ooh, that our hero moral cop was white and the very bad cop was black. Like, and I know that's not what they were doing, but it felt I don't know. It felt like maybe at the time it was easier to swallow a cop being corrupt if he was also black. I don't know. I'm asking the question.
I don't well, what do I know? But I don't think that has any bearing on it. Like,
right.
I think that for like an actor like Denzel Washington, I feel like that's the kind of part you dream of playing.
Right. No, you could tell he had a lot of fun with it.
Like that's such an awesome part,
More the Ethan Hawke part. Like the fact that he's like, I'm just this white cop who's perfect and moral. Like it felt in what we know now about cops and racism and racial tensions, it would have been interesting to see another black cop be the moral compass is all.
Right. Yeah. Well, when we do the remake,
people are dying for it.
We can do, I'm trying to think of who would be good in that part.
Michael B. Jordan.
The basketball player?
Yes.
I mean, he's a little older now, but
as the rookie cop.
Ever since I left the NBA, there's only one thing I wanted to do.
Well, didn't Shaq do that?
Become he's like a sheriff. Yeah. He was like going on raids and stuff,
Shaq is also in every single commercial. I'm like, are you okay?
It's funny.
I owe people a lot of money. Like, what
I was watching, I don't know what I was watching, but I was like, boy, he really has the icy hot market locked down. If you want to be comfortable with your pain in your shoulder, try icy hot. Like and he's not even on camera. It's just his voice,
Right.
Like he's so recognizable at this point. Well, that's good that you rewatched it because, it is a good movie.
And it is very LA.
Yeah. That's a thing. I mean, I started to watch it just because you said you were going to watch it. And then of course I got sidetracked, which was really funny to me because I was watching it on Netflix and like, I think I started watching it like 2 weeks ago and I watched like the first, 20 minutes or whatever. And I think yesterday I got an email from Netflix that was like, hey, Sean, don't forget to watch the rest of Training Day.
Like, Netflix, get out of my face. I got enough to worry about.
Like, what? Who is sitting there? Who is over at Netflix sitting there and going, this guy started to watch Training? Like, whose job is that? What person?
Well, it's like algorithm. It's not a person.
What?
I'll tell you that right.
It was specifically addressed to me. No, I'm like, whose office? Who goes into their office and they're like, let me see who's watching what today. Conroy still hasn't finished Training
But also,
Day.
like, maybe I didn't enjoy it. Maybe there's a reason I stopped.
Don't forget to stop. Don't forget. Yeah.
So the house that all the stuff goes down in, where his friend lives,
Scott
and then
Glenn.
they later come back and take the
under
money
the floorboards and all
and
that
murder
stuff.
him.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Yeah.
But that neighborhood.
And they shoot the other guy.
Yes. Yes. And he does a bad job.
You're coming through the door. Yeah. And he doesn't hit him right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad news.
I'm like, kill Ethan Hawke. Like, what are you doing?
Which they almost did.
Right.
You know?
But like, really do it.
Yeah.
He brought you down. So that house is on a cul-de-sac, and there's like sort of a little grassy patch.
Yes, across the street.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We filmed a Liquid Feet video on that grassy patch, the Knight Rider one.
Training night.
Yes. But that's like a fun, like, oh, I know that area.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say is I think when I had watched the movie in the past, this is before Netflix got involved and keeps begging me to finish watching it.
So thirsty.
Yeah. Come on, Netflix, take a break. But I think when I watched it before, it was before I lived in LA. And I would love to rewatch the whole thing because that is how I feel about watching stuff about LA now is like, I recognize everything, you know?
And you're like, that's a nice neighborhood that drug dealer lives in. Maybe not then.
He's done well for himself, you know? Yeah. He's done well for himself.
The ending does make me laugh, and maybe it's accurate. It feels a little over the top. Again, spoiler alert to everyone, but they're in downtown LA, and the Russians come out and just like light him up with AK-40s.
That is totally accurate. That's how that's how the whole witch hunt started, you know? That's what Durham is investigating right now. He's investigating the hit by the Russians. No, that is always a funny thing in movies.
Where I'm like, I feel like somebody would notice this.
Yeah, it's just an action movie trope. These insane things happen and people just get away with it, you know? Like, I do always get a kick out of that. And it's always, this is spoiler alert for my pilot, which will never be made. I'm always amused by the fact that it's like the Russians, the Azerbaijanis, you know. So in this pilot that I wrote, there's a gang that comes out and confronts this guy right at the beginning of the show, and I very purposely made it that one of them is black, one of them is Asian, and one of them is white, just because I feel like
it's always like, oh, the Belgians are here.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we did a thing. It never got into a show, but we had a thing that we were trying to make work for a long time on Mr. Pickles, which was the Chirish. There was a gang called the Chirish, and they looked Chinese, but they all spoke with Irish accents.
Amazing.
They were like, "Hey, top of the morning to you. My name's Mitch of Harley." You know,
no.
But I do. That is, you know, it's taken very seriously in action movies. Mm-hmm. But when you step back from it, it's very funny that it's like always it has to be some specific ethnicity. Usually, if it's not Russian, it's Eastern European of some sort.
Mm-hmm. And it also sort of hints at the fact that it's like all Russians. Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a gang, a specific gang. It's like Russians.
The Russians.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that's how the witch hunt started. I mean, a lot of those guys, in fact, you don't see that part of the movie, but I think it's in it might be in the director's cut, or it just might be a scene on the DVD extras. But after they kill Denzel, or not after they kill him, but they shoot Denzel, and then the scene goes on, and it's them going like,
"We're not actually Russian.
We are here. No, we are here to talk about adoption. That is why we are here. We want to talk to you about adoption. Do you want to talk about Adopt a Baby?" They have a thing called Adopt a Baby. It's like an 800 number, you know.
It made the movie a little long, though.
The studio executive is like, "What happened to the part about the Adopt a Baby? I want that back in."
I was infested.
It's too short now. It's only 2 hours and 11 minutes. What happened to the other 2 minutes about the adopt a baby thing? Because I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about adopting a baby, and this could put me over the top.
And I know this couldn't happen because they needed the movie to keep happening and there to be a plot. But every step of the way, Jeff and I were like, just go home. Like, get a cab. Like, what are you doing?
Well, it was before Uber, so you couldn't
really change things.
You couldn't do that. Okay, so parting shots. Let's start today with Amber. I
have good news.
That's 3 in a row that I'm starting with you.
Wow.
Introduced you first, went to you first. Oh no, went to me first, but went to you first out of everybody else. And now I'm going to you for parting shots first.
I have good news. I have an appointment for my first vaccine shot.
Congratulations.
It's great. April 15th. It's the day that all adults are eligible in Los Angeles. I did it a little bit sneaky, but it's a day that I'm eligible, so I feel okay about that.
Are you going to be able to pay your taxes and get a shot the same day?
I don't want to blow your mind, but we already paid our taxes. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, queen.
What? Well, that's good. So then you don't have to worry about that. Because it's like Shakespeare always says, beware the eyes of April.
But yeah, Jeff and I both got an appointment on the same day and
same place. Same time.
We're gonna carpool the whole thing.
It's great.
But yeah, it's exciting because it didn't feel possible for so long. Like it just feels like hope.
Well, it's crazy because it feels like it's snowballing at this point. Like it starts to happen and then more and more of it is happening. And now it's like it's happening for everybody. And,
But to your point, what you said earlier, I think this is
we've been here for 2 hours. What did I say earlier? Like this is
about kind of freaking out, even though you're vaccinated.
Yeah. Right. What a pussy.
No. I think this is a very common Amber pattern. I think listeners might pick up on this, where when something happens, I'm like, that's fine. And then a little bit later, I'm like, oh, that wasn't so fine. Like it just takes me a while for it to hit. And
I got it. I don't got it.
Right. And not that I've been all smiles and sunshine the whole lockdown.
No, absolutely not.
But I've been okay. I've been kind of dealing with my mental health in a fairly healthy way. And I feel like it's all hitting me now that things could open up in a strange way, where a lot of my friends, it feels like they're excited and ready to start making plans. And I'm like, the trauma is actually kicking in. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, not to bring up what I was saying before. Oh no, you just brought that up. But I do think it is different for everybody, and it's going to be different for everybody for a long time. Like, and who can even say
like
what that is? That too. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know why this bothered me so much today. Like I have no rational explanation for it, except that it's part of a whole bunch of stuff, I mean,
I think I say this every episode, but we are a traumatized population in ways that we don't even realize. And it's going to be interesting seeing all of the manifestations of that personally.
Right. And it's going to be, and it's going to be a lot of stuff,
and we can't fully even guess.
No, but I guess my main, I don't know how to express this, but what I'm really saying is, can I put you down for $1,000?
I would like to hear the pitch.
The ghost of a goat and a barrette with a beret.
I'm listening.
They live in a cookie jar.
And their relationship.
Yeah, it's about their relationships. But it's only one relationship, but it's about their relationships. Okay, so parting shots. Amber.
No.
Oh, that was yours. Oh, yeah, that was yours. It's hard to keep track when there's so many.
There's so many.
Yeah. So one thing I have noticed for myself as I've been living here, and it's something I've been aware of for a long time. We were talking about this the other day of like, sometimes you just want to be able to complain about stuff and have the other person go, I hear you. I feel you. I'm sorry. That sucks.
Like,
and that's
that is a valid way to feel.
That's all you need from the other person.
Most of the time, I would argue.
And what I have realized my tendency is, and I know where I get it, although I won't get into where I get it from. My tendency is to
try to fix,
solve the problem. Like, I don't like this thing. Well, here's what you need to do. And so the other day, somebody was telling me about how this is such a weird, funny specific, but they were like, the water is too cold when I get up to get a drink of water in the middle of the night. The water comes out too cold, and then I drink it, and I'm up all night because the water's too cold. And I immediately knew a solution to that, which was you pour yourself a glass of water before you go to bed at night. You just keep that out. And then by the time you wake up, the water is room temperature.
Right.
So I said, I go, because I'm aware of this now, I go, you know what you should do? You should do whatever you think is going to help you in that situation.
They're like, okay.
Yeah,
like, that's
right.
a bizarre thing to say to me.
Right. So hopefully I'll get to the point where I won't even say the first part, but at least I knew to catch myself halfway through and go.
But there is a place, like, if
do
people,
whatever you want. If
people do need a solution, it's not like don't ever.
No, but it's got a time and a place. And sometimes you just want to be able to go, it is too warm outside right now. And have the other person go, it is too warm.
I hear you. Yeah.
Instead of like,
well, wear shorts. Have a popsicle.
Yeah, and you need to go stand in the shade and wear one of those little umbrella hats.
Right.
Like the headband with the umbrella above it that puts shade on your head. And you might want to think about getting a portable air conditioner that you can walk around with, or an electric fan that will blow.
Right, because then also the onus is sort of on that person.
Like, I'm not looking for you to solve the fucking problem.
I'm on a group chat, not to brag, with a bunch of girlfriends, and
me too.
This summer, I think about it a lot. That's why I'm bringing this up. It reminds me. This summer, one of them was kind of made a complaint about their partner who they're living with, because relationships are even trickier in a pandemic because there's no escape and there's no other human beings to talk to. And we all were like, oh, this is probably why he's doing it, and this is how you could fix it, and this is where he lives. Right?
No, I know where he lives. I live with him.
And she got pissed, and she's like, fucking forget it. And I immediately, exactly what you're saying, was like, your complaints were valid. Right. I'm so sorry. Like, it was coming from a good place, but I also get her frustration. Right. Because she also probably felt like we were taking his side.
Right. Right. And certainly you don't want to feel like that when you're complaining about something. And I do. Yeah. It's funny. As you say that, I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, yeah, it does feel sometimes like you're saying, or I'm going to use I statements.
Gorgeous. Love that.
my eye
nonviolent
hurts.
communication.
My eye bothers me sometimes, and I scratch it. No, it feels like you're saying you could have fixed this problem yourself, but you felt like you had to unload it on me. So now I am telling you what you should have done in the first place instead of complaining about
or
it.
Also, like, you didn't see this part of their point of view. Like, you were wrong to fight with him. Or, you know.
Right. But I guess I'm just saying, like, it's
should have never
faulting
even
the other
come
person.
Yes. Yes.
And that's
we're saying the same
what
thing.
You want.
For some reason.
No. No. 75%. So anyway, that's a thing that I'm trying to work on. So
damn, between the walnuts and that, like,
what I would like
you're
to do
almost
is,
got a full picture.
what I would like to do is put you down for $500. I mean, I keep drop. I'm gonna let you go. That's a callback to last
I know.
week. All right. Well, I feel like that's kind of our show, right? Like, that's it. We don't have.
We did it. It was long. It was. I mean, it was a full show. It
was fucking endless. Jesus Christ!
Shut up!
Get the fuck out of here! Good Lord!
I got places to be.
I have downstairs, upstairs. I'm gonna go watch upstairs, downstairs. I got Netflix up my ass about finishing Training Day.
Well, do it so they could congratulate you or whatever.
Hey, Sean, we just got a new show you might like.
Love that you think someone was hired to give you recommendations.
How are they able to hire that many people? Like, it feels like there's millions of people that subscribe to that service, and yet they have people who are monitoring what each person is doing. Like, I don't know. That seems crazy.
I'm done here.
Imagine those meetings where it's like, all right, guys, you know why we're here. So who wants to? And then somebody raises
Sean
their
watching?
hand. Yeah. Somebody's like, yeah, listen, Sean still has not. I hate to keep bringing this up. Sean still has not finished Training Day. No, but some of them are like, Jesus Christ, here goes Bob about Training Day again. Doesn't he get it? He doesn't like, the guy doesn't like Training Day, doesn't want to finish it. I hear they're making a party for somebody in the other room after, we're going to have cake in the.
Because they finished the Princess Diaries or whatever.
The Princess Diaries. All right, folks. Well, please rate and subscribe. I feel like I say that all the time, and it's such.
But I think that's a good thing to say. I have been monitoring. And we are getting reviews. We are getting additional reviews every week. I wouldn't say hundreds of thousands, but we are getting more every week, and we really appreciate that. And keep them.
Well, I don't know if you heard, but I did tell people, that we set a goal for ourselves of getting 1,000 reviews by 2012.
Yeah, somebody reviewed the number 1,000. Did you see that?
Yes.
That's funny.
In fact, that person not only did that, but then it didn't immediately go up. So that person sent me a message on either Facebook or Twitter or something of like, I wrote this review and I was like, it's going to go up. Like, I promise. But that was funny. Yeah. I guess I should word it differently. We want 1,000 reviews.
Gotta go.
By 2012. Okay. We'll see you next time on The Long Shot. Fare thee well.
Be well.